Oh, it's time for a manga reading log. I have 10 manga titles from my manga collection just to get you start your manga reading log for the month of July of this year. Hey guys, this is RuRoniK95 here. Once again, it is time for my manga reading log for the month of July of this year. So, as of being said, because I have probably picked about 10 of these manga books, 10 titles right here that I picked from my manga collection just to get a little headers to change things up, particularly of how I come by, of how it made me become a manga reader, particularly despite how I've been learning over the course of that. It has been a day for me and my manga I have read as well. There are some I like, some that I'm currently reading, ones I can reread, and favorites accordingly in general, particularly. That's why. So without any further ado, just right here, right now, let's dive into what we have here for my manga reading log of what I'm currently reading. The first one here I have is Tenjotengay. This is basically the first time I wanted to read this manga for the very first time of how it's got to me, particularly. I mean, it's basically of how it explains about the school was dominated by the ruthless martial arts teams who are part of a rogue club when they have to fight the odds to stay alive. Especially if they can destroy the freshmen of the Jukin Club, particularly. Of how 2 years happened on Maya's presence, of how it created a deadly rift between her brother Shin and his friend Mitsuomi, along with his treacherous girlfriend, her father, Mitsuomi's father's evil plot, and the mystical sword, Shin's fatal deterioration, of how it's inescapable. Now that Aya has got the stolen sword, how is the cursed fate doomed to repeat itself, of how this goes? Yeah, so that's basically of how, particularly of how what this has got to me is that Tenjotengay, by far, is basically how it's gotten to the point out of how these anime girls, or manga girls, kick ass, particularly. Especially for a manga like this. I mean, I just love how the action... Yeah, because they kick ass, particularly. Sort of like Iki Tauzen in its own certain way. Speaking of which, if you love Iki Tauzen, I highly recommend you Tenjotengay. At least the manga have to be in the mood for it. If you can have some head starts of how to change this up as well, particularly if you ever read the manga, particularly as well. And the next manga here that I just currently read here is Kamikaze. This is my second favorite manga, right next to Kentaro Miura's Berserk. Kamikaze is created by mangaka artist Satoshi Shiki. I mean, the manga explains about how everyone with the legendary they're after the legendary girl of water, whose blood can basically wanted to unlock the trans-dimensional prison which holds the fabled 88 beasts and unleash them to the world as they know it. Of how this happens in Kamikaze, when their problem is that no one knows where the girl of the water is, or if they know of the power she wields, of how this awakened in whatever body she chosen to possess. of how this tracks her down, a host of supernatural warriors descends upon Tokyo with their imminent destruction of all mankind. Of this, except there's one rogue swordsman who is basically in capability of the duty bound to protect the girl of water at all costs, particularly. Yeah, what can I say? I really love this manga. Yeah, this is basically like an action horror manga. Yeah, I think I like this manga particularly. I may like it right next to other ones, which is before there was High School of the Dead. Well, High School of the Dead you have to be in the mood for. This you have to throw in any time, and that's Kamikaze particularly. I mean, I know there's some fan service, ecchi parts in it, because I know it has its moments, particularly of how what Kamikaze has, particularly like accordingly from how this goes to the point of view as well. Yeah, because I love this manga. I can read this manga at any time until I can do a review on this. Someday I will do a review on Kamikaze manga as soon as I can, once I get more volumes of them. The next manga that I just started reading, of what I'm currently reading, and this is Karaku Ridoji Ultimo. Yeah, this is basically one of those manga titles who have collaborated with the original concept came from Marvel Comics creator Stan Lee, who has collaborated with mangaka artists when they wanted to make this manga accordingly as well. Yeah, because I've heard interesting things about this one, because you can't go wrong about how, this is what I come by about how comic artists collaborated with Japanese mangaka artists when they got the idea of this manga particularly as well. What can I say? Because I think this is one of those, it's just what it is as well, particularly. Yeah, because sort of like than other shonen manga titles out there. More different. Well, you get the picture though, particularly. As how, what I come by on reading something of how this comes to this fresh, particularly of this one, accordingly. And the next manga that I just read, and that is Yona of the Dawn. This is the first time I wanted to read this manga, which I think this is from mangaka artist Mizuho Kusanagi. Yeah, because, I mean, the manga basically tells a story of how Princess Yona always lives for an ideal life when she's the only princess of her kingdom, of how it's doted by her father, who is the king, protected by her faithful guard, Hack, when she cherishes the time spent with the man who she loves, which is Suwon, or whatever you want to pronounce the character's name in the manga. When everything changes on her 16th birthday, tragedy has striken on her family. Yona and her friends wanted to call themselves as bandits when they protected Fire Tribe villages from the cruel government officials. Kang Taijun, who is the Fire Tribe chief, who has the second son, goes to the Atan village with the orders to eliminate the bandits there. When he thought that he's killed Yona, but when he hears the voice, something happens when they come face to face of how this goes accordingly, which is very impressible as well. I mean, I love the art work on this one. I mean, the story is very interesting and very unique, especially for a manga like Yona of the Dawn. I mean, this manga has helped me how I wanted to become a manga reader, because I wanted to check out these titles as well. Yeah, because, well, what can you do, though? Although, I have never seen Yona of the Dawn anime series, but I thought the manga I wanted to read particularly because at least the manga's good, but I will check out the anime as soon as I can. But for right now, I just have the manga, though, particularly. Yeah, because there's more volumes to check out as well. I'll get more of them as soon as I can. And the next manga that I read is VB Rose. What can I say? This is one of those romance manga titles from mangaka artist Banri Hidaka. I mean, this manga tells a story of how Eicha is shocked when she's heartbroken when her beloved older sister announced that she's pregnant and she's married to the most boring man, of how all hope is lost when Eicha stumbled upon into the job of a lifetime when she helps to make her sister's wedding dress. When Velvet Blue Rose is basically a super exclusive bridal design shop run by Yukari and Mitsuya, those two guys, when Mitsuya, the pattern maker at VB Rose, hurts his own hand, will Eicha jump to save her sister's happy dream of marriage? Of how, despite her own reservations? That is the question, because that is the answer to that, particularly. I mean, I think I've heard interesting things about this manga. I have never read this one before, until now, particularly. Unlike most romance manga out there, because this manga has helped to have how I want it to feel ironic about how I come by on how this has got me going, particularly as how for a mangaka artist, how they make these kind of manga as well. Yeah, because you can't go wrong with this as well. Well, you can't go wrong with VB Rose, that's why. And the next manga that I just read for the very first time, and this is basically one of those mangas that are also based off the anime, and that is Code Geass Lelouch of the Rebellion. Yeah, I think I've read one volume of the manga, particularly, about how the manga basically tells about how the Holy Empire of Britannia always conquered Japan with their mere number as Area 11. When Japan has lost on its freedom and the people have lost their rights, this Britannian boy dreams of toppling the very steam of how he's been part of. His name is Lelouch. When he has obtained the power to change the world, his rebellion has begun, which has got to him particularly. Well, what can I say? I mean, I have seen the anime. I've only seen the first season, but the manga, I think I've been introduced to the manga, though. Well, like I said, anime, you have to be in the mood to binge watch. Manga, throw in any time, particularly. Well, because I haven't thought that I have wanted to read this manga, particularly. Yeah, because I love me some of those manga like that, particularly. Yeah. Because you can't go wrong with something of how I come across, of how just to consider the fact of how this has gotten to how Code Geass has a lot to do, particularly. Check this out, if you can. And the next manga that I read here, which I'm still on the brink of currently reading, and that is basically one of my favorite manga series that I'm reading in Volume 2 after I read the first volume, and that is Berserk. This is basically the first time I wanted to read the second volume of this manga, particularly. I mean, the second volume explains about the evil Count has the dark powers to transform a defeated guard captain with his into a inhuman to combat Guts, the Black Swordsman. When Guts has pint-sized elf sidekick named Puck has been captured, when it's given as a gift to the Count's daughter, who is the girl in a glided cage, imprisoned by her father in her room. So this leads to Guts determine how he can make the mincemeat of the Count. When they wanted to bail out his companion, if he has, particularly, just to make the mince, if he basically gets around to assault the castle and takes on the nearly indestructible demon guard in a blood-soaked battle royal mayhem. But when he face to face with the black swordsman at last, when the unholy count reveals his own true form, when Guts' supersized sword may not be big enough to overcome to defeat the demonic monstrosity of how this goes. Yeah, what can I say particularly? Yeah, chapter 5 is basically like more different than the longest one of how, what can I say as well? Yeah, because this how makes me want to introduce to the Berserk, the world of Berserk as well, accordingly to the fact as how most chapters can be longer though in between those volumes as well. Well, you get the point though about how what Berserk had a lot to do, particularly what Kentaro Miura has created this particularly. Yeah, because these is the one of how what I come across of how Berserk has gotten these longer chapters in every volumes as well, particularly of how this has a lot to do for this one accordingly as well. And the next manga that I just started reading, especially that I wanted to binge read on something that I wanted to have a special place in my heart for having me to be devoted exclusively to become a manga reader, and this is Initial D. Well, Initial D is basically of how it explains about a cocky young person named Kent Nakamura, who is part of the Akagi Red Suns, who declared himself as a master of racing in the rain. When a torrential downpour hits Mount Miyogi, when he takes the chance of how he become the first driver in Gunma to defeat Tak Fujiwara, who is the driver of this, who is the main character of this one particularly, and his Phantom 8X, which is his car, of how when even if Tak survives the deadly rain battle, there's even more fearsome challenges lies in the wait for him. There's some shadowy characters from the Team Emperor wanted to score out the Gunma scene, looking for some tasty racers to take on their Lancer Evolution 4, even if Tak agrees to the match, of how the Emperor boys will have to show if they wanted to have the skills to back up their trash talk when the course is set, when the anticipation hangs through the air. Now Tak may come face to face with the hard lesson of how to lose, particularly, which seems that all has gone quite well. Yeah, Initial D, however, this is like more different than any other manga, and they're sort of like how wanted to come across as well. Yeah, because I have seen the anime, but I thought this is all new for me on Initial D accordingly as well, because I wanted to do something very fresh of how this manga wanted to have a special place in my heart just to become a manga reader accordingly to the fact of how I wanted to discover something of how I never read before until now, apparently as well. Yeah, because if you have never read Initial D, check out the manga, because at least the manga is almost as good as the anime, but the manga, I can read more very often, particularly, because I'm starting to become a manga reader, that's why. And the next manga that I just read right here, and this is basically the best of the shoujo manga, and that is Fruits Basket. Yeah, this is basically another manga that I have another place in my heart of how... I mean, this manga explains about how a family with an ancient curse, with a girl who exchanged their lives on every character. When Toru Honda discovered the zodiac secret of the Soma clan. When her eyes wanted to been opened to the world of magic and wonder, if even there's such a great secret when it comes to responsibility, especially for her friends, Hana-chan and Uo-chan come to, or whatever you want to pronounce the character's name, come to the Soma house for the sleepover. Toru wanted to work cut out for keeping the cat in the bag and a dog on a leash accordingly. Well, in my opinion, Fruits Basket is one of my second favorite shoujo manga, right next to... But there's also how there's some moments as particularly more different than any other shoujo manga out there of its kind. But I think this makes it good about this particularly of how, what I come across of how, although I have seen the old Fruits Basket anime and the new one I saw, but I thought the manga, I wanted to have all new for me particularly, because I wanted to start getting to know about the manga as well. Even though I started reading this for the first time as well. Yeah, because I love reading some shoujo manga, huh? Can't get enough shoujo, huh? Particularly. So, if you have never read Fruits Basket, give it a read. Give it a shot to read this shoujo manga. Highly recommend it. If you ever been a manga reader, for some manga recommendations, if you ever love reading shoujo manga as well. And the last manga that I just read here, and this is the manga that I wanted to read that I haven't thought of one until now, and this is Chibi Vampire. This manga explains about Kenta, who has to see Karen at work and at school every day, serving out any reminders of how something about the girl with the oft bloody nose, which is not in a good way. He may be suspicious, but he's not even exactly subtle to have this pointing out of how, fearing that he may discover the secret, Karen decided to kill any potential problem with kindness when she goes out of the way to do all kinds of nice things for him. When Kenta catches her feeding yet, the gig may goes up about how the vampire girl must do. Why would take the boy home to meet her? That'll be the good question about how, if he would take the boy to meet her parents as well. Yeah, this has gone to how this may be a horror comedy manga. Yeah, I have never read this one until now, but I thought it's all basically new for a horror comedy manga. Unlike most other horror mangas, like necessarily the Junji Ito ones, but Chibi Vampire was done by mangaka artist Yuna Kagesaki as well. Yeah, because there are some comedic moments, but there are some creepy moments, especially for the horror in this manga as well. Sort of like Vampire Princess Miyu or Rosario Vampire. What can you do? The manga has anything under... This manga has dealing with the subject about vampires accordingly. Especially of how... Just to consider the fact of how this manga has as well. Well, I wanted to explain about how I wanted to know about this manga, particularly whenever I come by on how I deal with subjects, whether it's dark fantasy, comedy, shoujo, or horror, accordingly to the point out of views as how somehow it depends on any of the genre, how it goes on, particularly of how what I come across on how I discover horror manga accordingly as well. Because whether it's action, martial arts, sports, history, or action horror, whether it's superhero or romance or romantic comedy or mecha or action or isekai or shonen or shoujo, any other topic of the subject under the genre, especially for manga as well. That's why I have to pick 10 of these manga titles for my manga collection, just so I can have for my today's video where I'm doing my manga reading log as well. So that's going to be it for my video for today, you guys. Thank you for watching, but before we go, here's something to say for this video. I have been doing some manga reading log just for every month as well. Not necessarily like daily reading logs. No, but this is basically like more like a monthly kind of video, because I read those every month for this video, accordingly to the fact as well. Because that's why I wanted to become a manga reader, not just a anime watcher. Well, I have been watching anime as well, but it's been a while since the last anime movie I just watched last night was Ride Your Wave as well, even though I haven't been watching any anime in a while, but I'll get back to watching them as soon as I can. But for the manga, however, I'm starting to get and learn over the fact that I'm starting to become a manga reader, because I have been checking out manga titles of what I'm currently reading, or what are the ones that I picked that are my favorites, accordingly, because I wanted to learn over the facts as well. Particularly of how I have become in the fact of becoming a manga reader is because I wanted to read some more manga books, including every titles, especially that I picked from my manga collection, just to start my manga reading log. That's why. Hope subscribe for content, my anime plan, link in the description down below. You share this video on your anime plan if you want, and Twitter and Facebook, if you have Twitter on Facebook, on all social media. If you want to check out my anime planet, the link will be in the description down below, because I have a huge backlog of manga and anime on my Anime Planet account. Patreon link will be in the description down below. If you want to check out my Patreon, come check me out on Patreon. And you have to be feel free to check it out if you like as well. And also be sure to let me know your thoughts in the comments section below on this video if you like as well. Be sure to click on the subscribe button. Be sure to subscribe to my channel, RuRoniK95. Feel free to join my channel, especially if you're new to my channel. If you haven't, be sure to hit the subscribe button if you're new to my channel. Smack the notifications bell button. Be sure to get notified also as well for more latest updates. Smack the like button if you love this video. Keep it otaku for this manga reading log, because I have read about 10 of these manga books for the very first time, just to start my manga read, just to cater around your manga reading log as a manga reader. This is RuRoniK95 saying thank you for watching my video. I'm glad you liked it. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope to see you soon for the next video. Hope you have a great day. This is RuRoniK95 signing off. Thank you for watching my video, and I will see you soon for more videos. Take care. Bye.